Oh, I know why you're here, okay? Don't pretend otherwise, and don't give me that, don't be talking about Brandon Aiyuk. It's all anybody's talking about. We're going to talk about Aiyuk. We're going to talk about it in the realest possible way. Good morning to you. Good Thursday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and this is Daily Shot of Steelers. It comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into hockey and or baseball. I also offer daily shots of Penguins and Pirates in the same place that you found this. Not really much of a change yesterday in any of the various Aiyuk reports from any of the various real reporters tracking it. In our case at DK Pittsburgh Sports, we were told by a source within the team that yes, the Steelers are one of the teams that are involved in this. No, absolutely no deal of any kind, nor agreement, nor framework of an agreement has been reached. But the fact that they're in it, and the fact that a couple of the other teams apparently aren't in it, even though they're in it, because Aiyuk doesn't want anything to do with the Browns or the Patriots. And why would anyone want to have anything to do with the Commanders? It's certainly looking as if the Steelers are a very, very serious player, and that they want what Aiyuk wants. Now all that has to happen is that there's got to be a trade made that satisfies both parties. Once more, that has yet to happen. Here's the point that I want to bring up today, and I don't think I've done this well enough to date. So I'm going to bring some exclamation points and some sledgehammers if you don't mind. Adding the Brandon Aiyuk is not a must for this team, but adding a bona fide top of the depth chart wide receiver is. Now, some of you, when you'll hear me say that, will go, wait a second, George Pickens is here. Are you slighting George? No. Look around the National Football League. Tell me which contending teams have one wide receiver in that mold. Time's up. There aren't any. They don't exist. And the reason for that is not only that that's the nature of offense in modern football. You're going to use a lot of wide receivers no matter what kind of offense you've got going. But two, people get hurt. I've brought this up a few times, but I sure don't hear a whole lot of it. What happens if George goes down? Even if it's just for a game. How about if it's later in the season with that crazy compact schedule with nothing but contenders and Thursday night games and stuff? What happens if George goes down then? Your season's toast. Your season's toast based on a single injury, and you really shouldn't be wired like that. The Steelers dealt with that once in recent years in 2019 when Ben Roethlisberger went down, of course, and young and not at all ready Mason Rudolph came in to replace him. Went well at times and not so well most of the time. That can't happen. You have to be ready for the battle of attrition as much as any other battle that you fight. Look, I'm going to say this both respectfully and lovingly. If you have elevated Van Jefferson, who's having a nice camp, Calvin Austin, who's having a nice camp, or Roman Wilson, who is hurt right now but has some potential, to anything resembling your top spot, there's no way out of that scenario. There isn't an escape hatch. There isn't a cheat code. There isn't a, we'll just throw it to Pat Freiermuth 100 times. Because that's not going to happen either. You need two of these, and you also don't really need to worry all that much about who's really one or who's really two, or for that matter, who's 1A or who's 1B. Because there's ample work for both of them, no matter who this other wide receiver would be. It's probably going to be somebody who plays a slightly different style or has a slightly different approach than George does. Now, where the Aiyuk is concerned, ask yourself this. Based on what you know about him, what you've seen of him, even if it's just like most of the rest of us from afar, way out there in Santa Clara, where would he rank among the offensive talent that's here right now? Not the wide receivers, the whole pool. Every offensive player in Latrobe right now. Aiyuk walks onto the St. Vincent College campus. Where does he rank among your talents on that side of the... But yeah, of course you know where that is. You absolutely know that. In addition to all the other skills that he has that you know about, he's also got the experience and the winning pedigree and everything. And don't give me, Russell Wilson at age 36. Aiyuk is instantly your most talented guy on offense. That's a hell of an acquisition. If not for TJ Watt, Minkah Fitzpatrick, you'd be talking about maybe your most talented player on the entire roster. So please don't try to paint these scenarios to make yourself feel better and say that, they might not get him, but then you know what? They don't really need him. Don't do that. Don't do that. Be bold. Be bold. That's what Omar Khan's doing. Don't just do it when it's convenient or after Omar's already done it. Omar's going big here. He's done a lot of that since he's been the GM. That's cool. That's what you need to win playoff games. When we come back, J1Q. This segment of Daily Shot is brought to you by our good friends at Mike's Beer Bar. They're located on Federal Street, directly across from PNC Park. Mike has more than 500 beers on tap, including from more than 50 local breweries. Stop in and say hello. Tell Mike we sent you. Mike's Beer Bar. Today's J1Q comes from Richard. This is really good. Richard asks, does the Steelers' defense improve by having to practice against a better offensive coordinator with a more professional approach? That's really good because it brings up a couple of fun subjects that I know I haven't brought up yet on this program from St. Vincent College, and they're very much worth broaching. First off, no, the defense does not know what the offense is going to do. If they were really all that invested in it, I have no doubt they could smoke out a lot of the signals that are taking place. Some of them are just barked out loud from behind the quarterback by Arthur Smith himself. But that's not what they're focused on out there. Everything is about execution, about reaction, about communication. And as Mike Tomlin re-emphasized yesterday, we're not looking at schematics right now. We're looking at performance, at making the plays happen. So especially with not one, but two quarterbacks who love to do the rollouts and anything really that keeps their feet moving, there have been a lot of challenges for the defense, and you can see this in stopping the run, which you heard on yesterday's show TJ Watt bring up with me, but also reading receiver patterns, not just wide receivers, tight ends too, running backs as well, moving across the middle. Guys, let me put it this way. If you're relying on people like me and others out at camp to share with you what's going on, if you haven't understandably been able to get out there and see it for yourself, the one thing that's going to have you giddier than anything else is all the work that's taking place across the middle. It's felt like no man's land for half a decade with this franchise, and suddenly it's just boom, 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 right across the middle. We're going to attack you right in your heart. And in this area, too, the defense hasn't been great. Guys are really, really open. Although, here again, I'll point out that schematics can play a big, big role in diffusing that. So my answer to you here is an emphatic yes, that the defense is going to be more challenged by facing an offense that's run by a real coordinator. But I won't limit it there, because the defense's greatest challenge within that remains stopping some of the individuals that are involved. When you see the runs, for example, that Jaylen Warren is executing, the routes that he's putting together, the short yardage, the screens. Yeah, I mean, they're doing screens, for crying out loud. All of the emphasis on Pat Freiermuth. Darnell Washington being involved. Deep balls on a fairly regular basis. This defense, in practice settings, which is what you're asking about, is going to be tasked to do things that they've not had to do. So yes, I think that's going to make them better. Yes, I think that's going to better prepare them for the diverse opponents that they're going to face along the way. And yes, everything I'm saying means absolutely nothing until there's real football. But you know what? We still do these shows in August, don't we? I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Steelers. We're going to do another one of these tomorrow.